if there ever was a line, Tom Ford was gonna cross it.
The raunch of Tom Ford.
So a little backstory on Tom Ford. If you don't know who he is, I'm gonna let you know. So he's the former creative director of Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, and his own namesake label. In the beginning of... Look at me with my whole shirt on. How appropriate. At the beginning of the 90s, he was hired as chief designer to help Gucci out when they were struggling. He debuted women's wear, and 6 months later, menswear. But Don Mello kept Gucci afloat at the time, and by 1992, he was in charge of the entire thing, including ready-to-wear, fragrances, image, advertising, and store design. By 1994, he's appointed design director. He took the brand to this sensual, provocative, sexy, for the lack of better words, place.
When something starts to lose its shock value, it starts to lose its fashion value, because then you don't feel new in it anymore, and you have to change it, you have to move it.
And it almost feels like, and this might be strange to say, but it feels like he understands the power of a woman, power dressing, or sex dressing. And as you know, sex sells. And it grew Gucci's pockets. In 2006, he launched his namesake label.
What was the moment when you were there? You were king of the hill, right, at Gucci for all those years. I mean, where you were was where the action was, all of that. What was the first feelings of sort of creeping, unease, spiritual angst? Where did it start to manifest?
Well, I left Gucci in 2004, and we sold the company. But it had started before then. I left because I was not going to be able to have the kind of creative license that I had had for so many years and that really helped build the company, and I was at a point where I had been used to that.
Now, there were some people, of course, who thought that you'd almost become a little hubristic about it. I mean, why should you have total control? I mean, you had a huge amount of control, creatively. I mean, nobody would have really messed with you. Then you left. Did you have a bit of thinking you might have made a mistake? I mean, you jumped out of this huge success. Did you feel sidelined by the years out of there?
Not at all. I mean, I'm not going to say that those years were easy. I never felt I made a mistake. In fact, I knew I had to leave. I knew even then, even though it was painful, and even though I couldn't necessarily see a clear future, I knew it was absolutely the right thing to do, and I feel that way today. So no, I went through some tough times, because if you're used to having a voice in contemporary culture, and all of a sudden, you don't have that voice, you don't have that outlet. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't understand how important that was to me. And all of a sudden, after investing all this time and energy, I had no identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I had to say. I didn't have a way to say it. It was very painful.
And it seemed like a lot of the house codes at Gucci that he kind of developed followed him into his namesake label. Back in the day, not even back in the day, a lot of his imagery in general creates conversation, sparks debate, especially about misogyny. If you look at a lot of Tom's campaigns, women seem to be objectified. Not new, especially in the fashion industry. Women are basically objects, unfortunately. It's changed now, but think about the 90s. Right. This is before Me Too. This is before all of this. So, and his ads have always been sexy. Always have been sexy.
If you think about beautiful people or beautiful models in the 70s and you look back at them, they were very sexy, but it was a very touchable kind of sexy. And today you can look sexy, but you look like you might also kill someone. There's a hard edge to today's sexiness. And I really think that so much of this goes back to the AIDS epidemic and to the fact that our lives changed and that really scared us. It really radically affected society.
And a lot of his campaigns and things were influenced by Guy Bourdain. Aston, it's Bourdain, please boy, and his photography style. And that usually included powerful posing, nudity, and suggestive situations. Definitely misogynistic vibes, like men towering over women, just very passionate, but at the same time, what is he doing? Get off of her. In contrast, a lot of the women in his advertising were powerful as well. So it was kind of a duality, right? So you have the men misogyny and all misogynistic and all that stuff, but then you have women that are portrayed as powerful beings. So in 2007 there was a fragrance campaign put out, and the fragrance bottle was placed in between a woman's legs. Now, this was an ad for men, not women, and it could be said that fragrance is unisex, right? So it doesn't have a gender, you can go ahead and whoever can wear it, but at the same time it was a male fragrance catered to men. So what I'm saying is, what is the message that we're sending, right? I think it gets people talking. What are we saying here? You know, when it's literally. The ad received complaints, of course. In 2012, there's a fragrance ad and people are naked. Again, is nudity a bad thing? No. We came into the world naked. The doctor smacked the ass. It gets banned in countries. So, when I say racy, understatement. Like, Tom, it gets to a point. In 2003, this one is the most infamous one. There was a topless model. A man on his knees. I'm trying to recall it from memory. And he's like, I don't remember if he's tugging on her drawers or she's tugging on her drawers, but all I know is that her lady bits, her lady parts, her pubic area is shaped into a G. G for Gucci. It also has like the G symbol, so it, of course, right? G spot. And it's like when I think about it, right? And I'm like, okay, well, it was definitely racy. It was also memorable. We can argue the fact that it was all of that, but it was also memorable. Like when they say sex sells, they mean it. It is a tactic that tale as old as time. It's wild. Like imagine, it's like this thing in fashion where we objectify women, but like if the shoe was on the other foot, and this was a man, ow, his pubes shaved into a G, would we still be as receptive? Would it still be as like, oh yeah, like that's hot? To be honest with you, men show bush all the time, and we say nothing. But like when it's a woman, it's a problem. Like Happy Trail, what do you think that leads to? A bush. It's definitely double standard for sure. The number one complaint he tended to get was objectification.
Can you understand why people might worry that you're objectifying women and young girls are looking at those images and thinking...
I don't know how to answer that because I think I, like everyone in the fashion industry, and maybe this is one of those things that one struggles with, all of us in the fashion industry objectify men and women. We're using the human form to sell products. And so, yes, a lot of times we are creating something that is, in real life, unattainable. Yet it also is there to make you dream. It isn't necessarily meant to be taken literally. It is a kind of representation of an idyllic, a marble statue, for example, doesn't necessarily look like the sitter. It's perfect. The marble is perfect. Everything. It's an impressionistic view. And as a fashion designer, you create that sort of dream world where things are perfect. That is the kind of ideal dream world. So I don't know how to answer really that question about objectifying because, as I said, I think all of us in the fashion world do create often an unattainable goal, a beauty standard for both men and for women.
Is there a part of you, though, that likes to push the boundaries, create a bit of controversy?
Of course. First of all, you're flipping through a magazine. You're selling a men's fragrance. Now, where are you going to put it that a man is going to look at it and notice? Between a woman's breasts or between her legs. I also did that one. But there was a gay version with the bottle between a man's ass, which only ran in a few publications. But again, who's your market? What do they want to see? Put the product there. Why not?
I feel like a lot of the energy you feel in those ads are supposed to be passion and yearning. It's always at the cost of the woman being like pinned down or like held down. And even if you look back into like campaigns of that time in the 90s and like the 2000s, like what is that word? I think it's like the Audis or something like that. Anyway, the women were always handled aggressively. It goes back to this thing, and I plan on making a video about it, about men in fashion and men in power and how that shows itself, right? Because a lot of the marketing, I'm pretty sure the marketing teams back then were not filled with women. They weren't diverse like they are now. They're barely diverse now, child. These ideas, and I can't say because I wasn't in the room, but at the same time, these ideas feel very male, or the aggression towards women, because it really does feel like aggression sometimes. Where is that coming from? What gaze is that coming from? Gaze, G-A-Z, not the G-H-E-Y-S. Maybe turmoil, if that's the word, because like, even if I can look back and think of the faces that the models used to make, and it was always very like, you know, and it was supposed to be sexy, and I don't know. But I didn't like it. I still don't like it. But here's the thing. Tom Ford also objectified men.
One of your adverts for the men's fragrance with the woman's, with the bosom,
Yes.
and it was saying it was objectifying women.
Well, I'm an equal opportunity objectifier. You can look right there at that full frontal male nude Yves Saint Laurent ad from 1999 or 2000. And when I say I'm an equal opportunity objectifier, I think the human body is beautiful. I am not offended remotely by it.
Media does not, again, double standard, does not see men the same way. So men don't want to see other men ass naked.
And whether it's male, whether it's female, I think in our culture, we do have a hard time with a male nude. It's interesting. We use female nudes to sell everything. And women in our culture, when they're, you know, you go out in the evening and they're in sandals with, you know, a short skirt, and they're practically nude. So we have this strange thing about male nudity.
Men don't mind seeing women naked. So again, who is this serving to? And it's women's fashion. It's something I think about often. Majority of ready-to-wear, all that stuff is made for women. Men are like a afterthought. I know that because I feel it deep in here. I can tell when I shop. It's just like everything's in gray, khaki, tan, and white, right? Everything's made for women. It's a woman's world. However, when it's marketed to women, it's just weird. Like, do they buy into it? Like, you being a woman watching this, right? How does that make you feel? I feel like a therapist. I need a pad and a pen. I studied marketing, so I know it's a psychology to it, and you're being marketed to, but I don't feel like that's being, or women are being spoken to. So where is this R&D coming from, and where is...
So how does one market in today's world? I mean, you know, a lot of people in the fashion world, the luxury world, are in a state of great confusion. I mean, obviously business is very, very bad. So people are having to figure out, how do they rethink marketing? I mean,
I always hated that word marketing, and I hate it now. Because for me, and this may sound simplistic, the key to marketing is to make something people want. When they want it, they buy it. When they buy it, you have sales. So the product has to speak. The product is what markets things. Advertising is, of course, important because advertising is the final design. It's the last layer that speaks to the customer, that tells them what you have. When they come into the store, if they put on a pair of pants and their butt doesn't look good, no matter how much marketing you've had, they're walking out of the store. They're not buying those pants. So marketing is important. I don't like that word because often marketing is used for hollow products that don't really speak, and it's the only way you can sell them is
But
through
obviously,
marketing.
Tom, you know, you were known for the most sizzly, provocative, you know, sexy kind of advertising. I mean, you know, you shaved a G in a model's pubic hair.
I know, and I actually did shave that G in that girl's pubic hair myself. Because why? Because we like to do things, we like to be in control, right? I wanted it exactly that way. I had to fill it in with an eyebrow pencil a little bit so that we could read it on
But
camera.
I mean, that was maximum, you know, like
You know,
in your face.
It was, but you know, I think it was the right thing at the right time. And it was meant to be taken with a bit of humor. It was a commentary on where we were with branding. We had pushed branding to the absolute limit. Everything was branded. So why not brand, you know, a guy branding his girlfriend's pubic hair?
Because I can also say this, fashion has a morality problem. One day they feel this way, and they're like speaking out about things, and then like 3 weeks later they've forgotten, and it doesn't matter. So I take everything I've said with a grain of salt, because nobody means anything anymore. When it comes to, they point fingers, but there's a lot of shitty shit under the surface. Even with all this, Tom stands by what he does and what he says. All this marketing, everything he put out, he said what he said. From his account, he feels like society got prudish. Like everybody feels like, oh, naked people, ah, a vagina, ah, a man naked, ah. I mean, I'm not like that. I look. And he mentions how advertisers won't allow nipple in advertising in magazines and stuff, but they'll allow full nipple and full frontal on TV. I'm sure there's rules in between on why and why not. Sometimes as an artist, you have to stand by your shit. Like, if this is what I want to put out, this is what I want to put out. I'm not apologizing for that, right? If I want shit to be sexy in its fashion, then it's going to be that. I do think nowadays, especially, people have lost a backbone. But when it comes to, like, the way you see the world and your opinion, especially if it's not hurting anyone, is misogyny hurting people? Yes. Okay, I'll rethink that. There's also a regional issue when it comes to the provocation. What is the word? I'm gonna go with provocative because I know I don't have time. When it comes to region, they look at provocativeness. Is that it? Probably. Differently. When Tom Ford shoots his campaigns, he shoots 3 versions. The world version, conservative version, and the Middle East version. The Middle East version has to adhere to rules like men not touching women and all parties wearing clothes. But the conservative version is for America. Interesting. We talk about conservative in America today. It's always been. This is why I'm saying it's turning conservative. It's gotten an uptick, but it's always been there. At the end of the day, Tom Ford is known for this now. And through him doing this and pushing boundaries and pushing the line and crossing that line I told you he was going to cross, he's become one of the world's biggest provocateurs. And it's created such an identifiable brand. Let's play a game. You tell me the first thing that comes to mind when I say something, okay? Tom Ford. Exactly.